Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our second BG5 Live of the year. And Moxie has joined us here today. So welcome. It's great to have Chris back. And today we're going to continue with the 5 steps to start the New Year's off right. We are going to be taking a look at steps 3 and steps 4, and we're going to be focusing on trait number 61. So this is January 14th, 2020, and this is episode number 36. So before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. So let's start with Chris. Welcome back, Chris. Great to have you here.
Hey, thank you. I'm broadcasting from an entirely new state, and it's still under construction, as you can see, but I'm super excited to be here. Really fun to be with you all again, especially the team. Great to see you, ladies. So yeah. I'm excited for this. This is going to be fun.
Great to have you back. Yay. And Natalie.
Yes, I'm happy to be here, and it was fun getting started last week again. So looking forward to the next stages.
Yes, and Lavina, welcome, Natalie.
Hi everyone, glad to be here with you all. Happy almost Rave New Year.
Yes. We're headed in that direction, and that's part of what we're going to be talking about today. So again, we're going to be taking a look at the 5 steps to start the New Year's right, and we're going to focus on steps 3 and 4 today. But I do want to get started with kind of taking a look at and catching you up, just in case you didn't see last week's. Really this cycle, right now we're under a lot of pressure. And so you can see all of these traits in drive and stamina, which is a pressure function that's defined. And if we take a look at sort of the progression, when we had Christmas on December 25th, we were in joyous vitality. We moved to the first stage, and we talked about this last week. Last week, we took a look at New Year's, January 1st, moved into the fighter in the first stage. In the second stage, it moved into drive. This is what we took a look at last week from January 6th to January 10th. And now we are in the 61. This is still pressure, but this is a different kind of pressure. This is a mental pressure versus a physical pressure. And so this is inner truth. So we're going to be talking about this stage of assessment today. We're also going to be talking about stage 4 as well, which goes from January 17th to January 21st, which is acceptance, which is really about letting go. And then as Lavina was alluding to, we're going to be moving into stage 5, which is when we move to trait 41. And you can see here the start coda, and this is where it starts. We'll talk more about that next week. And it starts on January 22nd. So I believe that's on, is that on Wednesday next week? Yeah, so it's on Wednesday next week. So we'll talk about into the new year and wishing everyone a new year next week. So that's where we've been. Anything from our panel that you want to add, or Chris, anything that you want to add in being away and coming back and starting to go through this whole process, because you have been going through a whole process, especially in moving.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, we moved over the holidays. We moved from Oregon back up to Washington, and so literally moved to a new state in so many ways. And it was interesting. I found that on New Year's Eve, I just wasn't into the program. I was like, can we just go to bed now? Like, this is not even the new year. Who gives, like, who cares? And I'm just watching. And I was talking with a group of clients today, and many of them said, I don't feel like my New Year's really started. And so it was really fun to be able to talk with them about that and sort of why that's happening, and really getting the energy of the new year, that this is an energetic thing that's happening, and it's happening for all of us. And so this is probably the first year that I've really paid attention to the Rave New Year in a way that I've really applied it to myself. And oh my gosh, it's really remarkable how spot on it is. So
yeah.
it's been quite a journey.
Yeah,
So far.
beautiful. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think for myself too, in all, you know, in all the years of doing this, I haven't paid quite this much attention to it as well. And so it really is, you know, really I've read about it and, you know, I knew about it, of course, but I've never really applied it in the same way. And I think entering into a new decade, also there's this new kind of beginning as well, you know, and we're beginning this 7-year cycle to 2027, which we talk a lot about, which I think is quite fascinating as well.
Exactly. I just want to throw one more thing, and it could just be me and moving and all of that. But one of the things that I'm really noticing is a lot of grief. And, you know, as we're moving, as we're completing, I mean, think about the energy right now as we're completing that decade and year, and, you know, really looking back, and especially right now in this inner truth of, or maybe even last week, like, where was I driven, and by what, and by whom, and was that even me? And then now, what did I tolerate? What did I, you know, where did I compromise? Where do I really want to go moving forward, even more consciously? And in order to create, you have to grieve what you didn't create, or what you did create that wasn't maybe the, you know, exactly what you wanted. And so just noticing that there's a lot of emotions that are coming up, and you probably talked about that with the lunar eclipse on Friday and all the different conjunctions that happened this past weekend. But just to notice that might also be coming up for folks too.
Yeah, really great. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. Yeah, very powerful. Anything, Natalie? Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been teaching 2 classes already, and shared about this and you know, the 7-year cycle, the last 7-year cycle of this era that we are living in. And a lot of my students also shared that kind of they always felt this, like, kind of being in a rush, in a hurry to get on with it in the new year and the New Year's resolution and so on and so forth. But it doesn't work, you know, it's kind of heavy, and you know, it's pressurized energy that we have in this beginning cycle, right? And it's really contemplation, as Chris also shared, and I do not have the grief so much right now. I actually have more of a, ooh, it's like magic that's happening here, 2020. But I do understand what you're referring to, and that's also what some of my students shared, that, you know, it's also about noticing what didn't work and what you may not be proud of, but also what you are proud of, and just, you know, seeing it, accepting it, and contemplating on you. So what is it that gets you out of bed? What is it that moves you forward, and what isn't? And, you know, well, we'll talk about it more later on. But I think also, Karen, when you said, well, it's actually the first year that I'm really paying attention. You know why? Because we made it practical. There's a beautiful article.
This is very true. This is very true.
Even for myself. So it was actually conjunction between me and Karen writing this, and then you putting the words of the what and the why and the how. So beautiful.
Yeah.
And now you can work with it. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah, if you can put the link to the
yes, I will.
To the article, that would be great. Anything, Lavina, that you would like to add as we get started here?
What? No, actually, I'm just joking. Have you guys heard the ringing in the ears lately since Gate 61 came in? Because that, for me, that silence that rings very loud, I have that because I already have this particular trait in my driving force, conscious driving force. But there's a tendency to have a lot of sound, this ringing sound, and we have several planets or activations, life activations that are influencing us right now. So thinking about things that don't matter, I wonder how many people went to the doctor because they heard all this ringing in their ears in the last, week or so, because it's really, really amazingly heavy for me personally. So I'm just curious if anybody is experiencing that too in the Facebook group or whatever you find this. Please message and share if you have this trait normally, 61, or if you don't, what is it like for you? What are you experiencing? Because I'm really fascinated with this particular trait. So very excited to have this discussion with you guys today.
Yeah. Actually, I don't have what you share, but I had a lot of headaches.
Headaches too. I had some dizziness and some vertigo for sure. I went to the acupuncturist twice this past week because of it.
Wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that, Nathalie.
Yeah. So, especially as we go through today, if you find, if there's stuff and things that you've experienced too, we would love to hear from you again, both in our BG5 room, in our BG5 live, and also on our Facebook live as well. So let's actually take a look at these next steps, and then we'll open it up for more discussion as well. So when we take a look at what we took a look at last week, when we kind of focused in and honed in on the first two stages, the first stage was this tension. Remember, it's the fighters and this tension, and this is the why. What's worth fighting for, right? And what's not worth fighting for. What is really your why? And evaluating the last year, like we took a look at, and what worked and what didn't work. Where were you fulfilling your passion? Where were you fulfilling your spirit? Where was your purpose? And then we took a look at stage 2, and we took a look at ambition, and taking a look at the who. And taking a look at who are your allies, who are the people that really support you, who empower you or, support you in moving forward and moving up the ladder, so to speak. And so what we're going to be taking a look at today is the third stage, which is assessment, kind of taking a look at the what. So this is a time to look inward and access the what. Just like we were talking about here just a moment ago. So what is your inner truth? What is your inner knowing? What moves you forward? What do you love to do? Right? So we're starting to complete things, but we're also kind of taking a look at what's really important. So this is inspiration grounded in facts and details of what is possible. And it's the time to transcend boredom, the boredom of routine, and fantasize about the possibilities. But it's not a time to take action. So this is the time when we move into the 41 is the daydreamer. That's where we start. But this is the time to actually start kind of daydreaming, sort of like Nathalie was saying, getting in touch with, what's the magic? What's possible? This is where innovation takes hold. We take a look at this in a large business context. This is where new ideas for direction start to take hold. And so, what is your inner truth? What do you want for the future? Again, getting in tune with what is me and what do I really love? What would anyone like to add? How about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I was really contemplating this a little bit before the end of the year. And I asked this of my coaching clients this morning as well. This is a question from Elon Musk. And he says, the question's roughly, what would you do if you knew you only had a 5% chance of success? What would you do if you knew that you only had a 5% chance of succeeding at whatever it was? And when I really got to what that was, it was like, whoa, oh my gosh, could I do that? Like that's what I think we're really being called to do right now in this phase, is that even if you're like, I don't know, this is probably not going to fly, that's what your soul is calling for. That's what the essence of your design is really calling you to surrender and express, to get out of your way and really do that. And when you ask that question and really step into it, it can be incredibly powerful. It clears away all the dross. It clears away all the BS of what you think you should do and what you think you should like and all of that, and gets right to the really, what are you here to do, at least, this year and the next, period of time. So I'm curious how that resonates for those of you who are on the call and the panelists.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's a very interesting way to kind of look at it and think of it, because we usually think of it in the opposite way.
Yeah,
what would you do if you couldn't fail?
exactly.
But again, it kind of ties into like, what's worth the fight? That you're willing to, put in whatever it is, to to see those things, that you have that commitment to move it forward.
Exactly. And the other thing about it is that we also talk a lot about, doing what's easy, right? What's your genius? But here's the thing that's very tricky, because what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail actually plays into our shadows far more than it plays into our genius. Because if we only had a 5% chance, we would really have to tap into and let go of all the busy work, all the distractions that we can do. We're probably pretty good at it, but it's not our highest expression. It's not that thing that's like only we could do. Because that 5% is the thing only you could do.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a paradox, but now is the time to be in that question, because the energy is ripe to help you get clear on what that is.
I love that. I love it. Anything, Lavina, you would like to add?
The one thing that I love about this particular trait is it teaches us that we all have our own individual truth. And at the core of it, the one that I have as my conscious driving force is it's exceedingly difficult for truth to stand alone. So to be able to be interdependent with each other, to help us discover our inner truth, sometimes we need a little bit of help with the discovery process, the determination, the adaptability to keep trying things, even though they might fail. And for me personally, the inner truth is everybody has their own inner truth, and we can't necessarily know what that is for another person. All we can do is our best to try and communicate it through what we think, through what we share, through what we believe, through what we know. The experience of diving into your own inner truth, though, is a deeply personal and rich cultivation experience where you can tap into that inner knowing that sometimes you might not be able to express, but when you know it, it changes your frequency and it allows you to be something, that vibrates in a way that is attractive, and it says something about you. There's this mysterious air, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you move through life. You might not feel as downtrodden as other people. You might still feel pain when stuff happens, but you have that inner core of the truth and the strength of you. So for me personally, there's this beautiful opportunity that we have right now between our truth transformation and psychology being influenced by this. And also we have the trait that gives us discipline or limitation to help us discover our inner truth. So besides just the core essence of what's going on in our transit report, we also have some other really big, heavy players that don't often get together. I think they only come together about once every 20 years. So this really is kind of a once in a lifetime opportunity this week. We had the communication and thinking. So Mercury was also here just a few days ago. It is just a fabulous time for personal transformation. So that's my excitement about this week.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and the way you share it, it sounds like, oh my God, I really have to do something with it. So guys, it's just about, fantasizing the possibilities. You do not have to do anything. It's not to take action, just what are the potentials that are right around the corner? What are your gifts, your talents? Just, and as Lavina shared, once you get some of this inner knowing of your own truth, and however small it may be, it sets the energy in that direction. So it's not because all of those transits and planets that you really need to do something, because it puts so much pressure. There's enough pressure already.
Yeah.
But it's just to reflect, what do you love doing? Yeah? And I love the 5% as well, because it really takes you to think out of the box, and maybe tap into some of your qualities or your aspirations that you usually do not assess. And it's about assessing. It's not about, going for it, quote unquote, straight away. And that's also why you can have this, how do you say, like the fast writing, or what's it called? You can have just an open mind about it.
Yes.
How do you say, Lavina?
Oh yeah, no, I'm totally
The
spacing.
creative writing, that you
Uh-huh.
don't lift up your pen, but just go writing.
Right. Yeah.
Wild mind writing.
Yeah. There we go.
Because then it just comes from whatever, it's not about searching for it. It's just what pops in your mind.
Right.
Yeah.
And remember, this is not a physical pressure. This is a mental pressure. And a mental pressure is not to be acted upon. It really is just to kind of enjoy the fantasy about and fantasizing about the magic and the possibilities that are available, in this new decade, in this new year, in what's coming up. So enjoy it and enjoy that pressure. Yeah, beautiful. I love it. Any comments in the Facebook area, or anything that anyone would like to share in our Facebook Live? And if there's anything you'd like to share, you can raise your hand.
Yeah, so we have a sharing from Richard. He says, Chris, that's a great question. However, when most everyone is operating as not self and are posed with that question, it seems like it can potentially create more chaos. This is where operating correctly, when operating correctly really matters to make the right decision in the 5 minutes.
Yeah. Because what if all it is, we talked a lot about waiting, right? So what all it's about for builders is just waiting and then responding. That's how you get to that 5%, or if you're an innovator, it's, waiting to be moved into action, from your emotions, from your instinctive knowing, from your will, again, and all of the different decision-making strategies that we have for the advisor, so again, all of it has to do with waiting for recognition, waiting for invitation, right? Waiting for your decision-making strategy to take hold, waiting a 28-day cycle as an evaluator. So this getting more aligned and getting, in a sense, sort of fine tune. If you're focused in a sense on that 5%, you're going to need to fine tune to that kind of detail. And it has to do with waiting. Again, not taking action for action's sake, waiting before taking action. Beautiful. All right. And let's take a look at the next step, and then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about this inner truth. So the next step, and this is stage 4, and this is the stage 4 of letting go and acceptance that comes into play starting
Friday.
January 27th. So
yeah,
January,
this Friday and Thursday night in the United States.
Okay, perfect. So this is about letting go. All right. So again, as we've moved through the stages, it's about assessing. It's about taking a look at who's in our life. It's, the why am I here? What am I fighting for? Here it's letting go and sort of the acceptance, letting go of everything in the past so that you have a clean slate to move forward in. So the 4 is letting go. Stage 4 is letting go and acceptance. This is actually trait 60. And trait 60 is about acceptance. So letting go. So this is taking a look at how do you prepare yourself to finally take the first step into the new year, free and clear of the past. And how you do that is by letting go. So it's letting go of your monkey mind, that holds you back and makes you feel insecure. It's letting go of the past. Everything that all the baggage and all the, regrets and anything that we have from the past. It's letting go of what doesn't work. Let it go. And it's being ready. This allows us to really be ready to take a step forward and to transcend those limitations. And the moment that you can accept limitations, in a sense, they no longer exist. And we all have limitations. Actually, our design itself is a limitation, right? We only have 26 traits defined out of all of the different traits that are available. So there's only a limited amount of time. There's only a limited number of strengths and traits that we have. And it's almost like when you accept that limitation, then you can play within those boundaries, and you know what the rules of the game are. So, so you're not trying to do everything else. You're really honing in on letting go of everything that doesn't work, letting go of everything that's not you, and focusing on what's important to step into the new year.
Yeah. Oh,
Nathalie.
okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, accepting the limitation of who you are, but and by design we know we have a certain unique design, what we are designed for. But if you do so, the limitation doesn't exist anymore, because you see the brilliance on the other side. You see your unique self, and most of the things that are monkey minds in the past and what you come up against are your shadows, is what you are not. That is what you try to be or make up for. Whereas if you stand into your authentic self, you can accept the limitation of who you are, because you see also the brilliance of what you can bring, right? So, and then you can move forward and step into the new year, because and it's such a kind of a burden throwing off your shoulder, because you don't have to be what you are not. So it's beautiful.
Yeah, the freedom in limitation, in many respects.
Limitation, exactly.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, really nice. And I'm loving that you put this in here, Karen, in preparation for when this is actually occurring, from the core essence of what programs us. But right now, at this very moment, we also have this particular aspect in communication and thinking. So it's kind of like it's paving the way for us to really prepare to let go. So you could maybe identify, those of you who are listening, maybe identify with that feeling of frustration or limitation and stuckness. And if you are feeling that, if you're resonating with that and you're going, yeah, it really would be nice to let go, just imagine, what would it be like if you could let go? If you can't get to that place of actually letting go, like, how do you let go? What if you could just imagine, what would it be like? And that might help take a step in the right direction.
Yeah, beautiful. Really beautiful. How about for you, Chris?
Yeah, I just keep thinking about how, I remember when I was about 17 and went to Europe, and I remember going to the grocery store, and there was only like a few options compared to in the United States. It was like, if you wanted milk, there was like 2 milks, or whatever. And it was like so freeing. I didn't have to make the choices because of the limitation of choices. There wasn't the overwhelm.
Yeah.
And now we have so many choices, so much information, so many places and ways to be conditioned that, or taking in other people's truths. Oh my God, it's so bright here. Hello, son. That it's just so intense. And so, like that sun, and so we get distracted even more, and that's where we can lose the thread, and coming back to our decision-making strategy, coming back to the basics over and over and over again. Your design does you, not the other way around. And if you trust that process, the letting go is so much easier. And really, like packing up boxes, I kept thinking to myself, if I unpack this in 6 months or a couple weeks, am I going to think to myself, why the hell did I carry that? Or am I going to be like, oh, cool, I'm so glad I forgot I had that. And so it's kind of like that right now. if you're thinking about, you know, how moving forward in this next decade, or in, you know, it's like if you're doing something or carrying things around, physical things, mental, emotional, relationships, and you're like, why am I doing this? The time, you don't have to take action right now. I say allow yourself to know what you know, because that's the biggest issue. Most people don't want to know, so they won't let themselves know about what they need to let go of. So if you, as long as you let yourself know, you'll know the right time to take action based on your design.
Yeah.
But this letting go piece is huge. And I'm already like planning my Epsom salt bath, or my, you know, salt bath for this weekend. So you might all try that too.
I love it. Love
letting
it.
go there.
Yeah. Was there any questions or any comments or anything that anyone would like to add or share?
Yeah, so Richard is asking, regarding the timing of letting go, do you mean activating the change before we cross into the new year? Or does it matter if it's shortly after, or is it best before the 22nd?
Whenever you let go, I think is great. And it's almost like that energy is supporting us in letting things go. When we take a look at 60 in OC16, when we're taking a look at larger organizations, this is the old, right? And you know, the 3 on the other side is the new. And so in a sense, this brings the end to the cycle. Right? This is now, once you've let go, everything now is in the past. And so being able to go with the cycle really supports us in the process.
Yeah, and also, you know, maintaining what works. It's not letting go your whole life, but
right.
Moving forward from the limitations, which are the brilliance. Yeah.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. And Nina asked, if you know what you want to let go, is it best to wait for this stage to let go? Well, as Lavina also shared, the energy is already there in another life aspect. So, you know, start the process and you will back up. Yeah.
No, you don't go like this. You're like, I have some garbage. I'm just going to carry it around with me for a while longer. It's like, no, throw it in the garbage. Like, you just be done with it. Like, there's no, it's okay. You know, as soon as you know, you do it. So that's.
Oh, Chris, this new environment does you well.
I'm sorry. Look out. Just look out, everybody.
You make me cry with laughter, Chris.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Seriously crying right now.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so you know, the sooner you can let go, the better. When you know and you can recognize what there is to let go, let it go. Oh, so let's tie that back to what we're looking at with the inner truth. My cat's trying to let go of a lot of things. She's just knocking stuff off my desk.
We don't hear Lavina, but I just can imagine.
Oh. So when we take a look at the 61 of inner truth, again, this is what's happening right now. It's this awareness of universal underlying principles, and it's the pressure to know the absolute truth. It's the pressure to know the mysteries of life. And it's the pressure to resolve the individual tension to know. Right. So I love the questions, and part of why I love the questions is it's really this. It's that pressure to know the individual tension to know, when is the right time to let go? You know, when does this start? When does this end? What's the right way to do it? That's part of what's happening right now. So it's really perfect. You know, this is about mystery, you know, and it's also about the silence as well. So I do recommend during this time, if you have a period where you can just be quiet, where you can just be silent. Lavina was talking about sort of the buzzing in the ears. Even being able to just be present to that and to hear that without all of the noise that we typically are surrounded with, because it's almost through the silence that we can, in a sense, get to the truth. And again, it's getting to the truth of who we are, getting to the truth of the mysteries of life, getting to the truth of what knowing is all about. Anything you'd like to add, Lavina?
Challenging my ability to keep a straight face here. The thing that this reminds me of is, if for those of us who like the esoterics of BG5 and human design, is to take a look at that hexagram chop, the actual image, and see that it begins with two solid lines. In the very middle, at the center of this, we have the two broken lines. They call them yang or yin lines, and then two more yang lines, solid lines. So at the core, at the middle of this image is emptiness, it's silence, it's the inner truth may not be able to be expressed necessarily in a way that the other person can hear or know. But for you, the point is that there is this pressure within to know. And sometimes it's silence, and you don't have to get it from this place of being able to explain it. You just have to know it within internally for yourself. And if you're having trouble, don't worry. It'll come when it comes. It's not something that can be forced,
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of let go of that too, the need to know. It'll come when it comes.
Exactly. And there's a melancholy that comes with it. You have this, Nathalie, as well.
Yeah, I do. Actually, I'm now on one of the ups. No, but I shared in class today as well that I really feel kind of that it is a magical year, but not knowing how to express. It's just my truth, right? And also for me, this transitioning into the new year felt differently. Although nothing different happens or nothing different is there, but just the 2020 and knowing that we start the last 7-year cycle, but also I'm very grateful for this, all of this information that we do have, because to be able to trust ourselves, because the world will be a rocky boat coming time even more, but just knowing that we'll get to a place 2027 and beyond, and we're starting to get there. I mean, 400 somewhat years, the era that we lived this, it's now 5 to 12, 5 to midnight, starting the next, era. So getting to the authentic self is where we go. And I find it magical, and also something for me to hold on to, that if I hadn't this information, I would be terrified, I think, from what I see in the world. But just knowing that, we'll get to this place where more people will understand and feel as well this. And for me, that's one of the mysteries that I really got, and that I really got excited about in my classes today. And I also have it in my driving force. So yeah. And Lavina also shared she was terrified before human design.
Oh my God, global warming, and where do I move in case everything's going to blow up and there's nukes and bombs and, people fighting. And it just, used to be completely horrified and terrified at seeing what was on the news. I don't watch the news anymore because I know that that's my distraction of what I'm not here to focus on. But just allowing yourself this knowledge to investigate, research, go into the embodiment of what is true for you. There's this peace and this silence that everything is okay. No matter what's going on the outside surface of reality, there's this calm and this equanimity that can carry you through, no matter how hard it gets, there's still this something that makes it okay when you've had some time to decondition from all those fears that drive us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it kind of goes back to that limitation also, where it's uncomfortable, I think, for many people to think that there's a program, and yet it's also can be very comforting, again, when you realize that your expression in the program, your expression of your design is absolutely essential. There's no one else like you, and that you can relax into it. There's nothing that you have to like fix or do or try to be God. You already are. And so there's like, it's almost like we've created this whole world around trying to be something that we're not, and ignore that there is something larger than ourselves driving all of this. And when we really start to surrender to that, not that we don't have choice, not that we don't have some our expression, but that we surrender to the yin part of our designs, right? That it's not all about just do it, just go for it, just, you know, be XYZ, you know, that we get that we're being lived as much as we're living. And there can be such peace in that. Not everybody feels that initially, and it can be quite jolting, but when you really settle into that, there is great peace. And kind of going back to, as we come into, again, and we'll talk about this more next week, about limitation starting, you know, or like trait 41, the
Dream, a contraction, fantasy.
yeah, thank you. So here we're in that limitation, and then from there, it's almost like you have to have nothing, and then you can go. And when we really get that's natural, there's the ebbs and flows and the cycles of life, and we are part of that. Yeah. And we don't have to overrun that and overrule it and overcome anything.
Yeah. So beautiful, Chris. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Exactly. You know, and as we move into, you know, this, and as we're present to this inner truth, if we take a look at, in a sense, what's happening today, it's about research, you know, and again, digging in deep. So the elevation is the capacity of concentration to explore the depths of inner truth and maximize its application to the fundamental principles. It's the pressure to know the fundamental principles. And so that's, you know, in essence, what we've been talking about today are some of those fundamental principles that when you really relax into them, right, there doesn't have to be that being terrified and afraid of everything that's happening. There's that trust and that surrender that can happen. And the challenge is there's a tendency to expansion and integration that leads to involving others in the research and may end in a diversity of confusing applications. So it's the illusion that collaborate can enhance inspiration. So this is also, you know, points to that, you know, there's the research, and, you know, sometimes we can get really overwhelmed, right? You start to get everybody's opinions, you get, you know, get all this information from all these different things, you know, and sometimes it just comes back to that quiet, you know, coming back to that silence and coming back to that, you know, sort of own personal study to find what that inner truth is for you. Right. So it can go either way.
Yeah. So just forget everything we said today and listen to yourself.
Love it. Anything else you guys would like to add? Or any questions we may have?
Not right now.
No.
There was from earlier, Richard had commented, it's interesting, I was in a meditation earlier today and noticed this unusual loud ringing in my ear. I also felt a lightheadedness, very strange. And it's not a constant thing. It's like it comes and goes is what I've noticed too. So thanks for sharing that, Richard. Yeah. And we also had from the live Facebook stream, somebody said something interesting. Lucrezia said, people misinterpret the pressure of this sign, Capricorn, to finish off all that was procrastinated with the urge to start something new. What to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's nice to have at least some confirmation from the system that we're studying, and research it, investigate it for yourself. How does it work for you? Does it work better when you honor your personal decision-making strategy? We're giving you something to contemplate, to consider in deciding whether or not to dive headfirst into the New Year resolutions. Maybe trying this year to kind of wait until that time frame when you have the energy of the cosmos helping you out might make a difference, might help, so just validate it, test it for yourself.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. And just to wrap up, I'm just noticing the time. I did want to just point out our famous person for today, Albert Schweitzer. He's a theologian, an organist, a writer, a humanitarian, a philosopher, a physician. And he has trait 61-4 as his core essence, as his life work. So if you happen to be born today and you have the 61-4 as your core essence, your life work theme is about the material world, the physical world, what's practical. And so you are inspiring and inspired thinker who must use your mind in the service to others in order to avoid going mad by trying to know the unknowable. You are looking for the universal truths in facts and details to resolve the questions of life and death. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Albert Schweitzer, he received the 1952 Nobel Prize for his philosophy in the reverence of life. I'm not completely familiar with it, but for those of you who want to do a little bit of research and take a look at that, you can see how this plays into sort of that research and kind of understanding things at a deeper level and getting into the details to resolve the questions of life and death. So you can see what he won the Nobel Peace Prize was for the philosophy of the reverence of life. Right?
I think
so,
Kitty wants to investigate too. Many. I was like,
yes. All right. So, I have Nathalie's design here. She has the 61-6 in the driving force. And of course, Lavina has spoke about too, the 61-3 as her driving force as well. Anything, Nathalie or Lavina, that you would like to add about that trait before we wrap up? In particular, having it for yourself personally.
Just how freeing it is to be able to recognize that everybody has a right to their own inner truth, that we don't have to argue or fight who's right and who's wrong, that we can just allow each other to have our own opinion, perspectives, and experiences of life. Just to let go, again, that thing, let go of a need to be right or a fight or having to have all the answers, because sometimes there aren't any. Sometimes it's a mystery, and to be okay with that mystery.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Anything for you, Nathalie?
no.
Nope.
I love what Lavina shared. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you, everyone, for being with us. If you want to find out more about your own personal career design, you can go to the BG5businessinstitute.com and get a personalized free report. Also, we have our semester is starting, so we have first class is free. So I'm going to be teaching the BG5 Career and Business Consultant Certification course, so you can attend that. That is next Tuesday, and Lavina is going to be teaching the BG5 Foundation course, and that starts next Sunday. And again, you can attend the first class free. Lavina, I also should have put this as well. Lavina is also doing a webinar this week, right? Or this Sunday.
This Sunday is the free webinar for brand new people to BG5. And then you have that webinar tomorrow for those people who are interested in being able to learn how to use this in your personal development and your professional career.
Yep. Absolutely. And if you're listening to this via YouTube or Vimeo, and you're watching this later on, we will have the replays available as well. So we have a couple of free webinars coming up. You can go to our website at bg5businessinstitute.com/courses. That's where you can find our calendar. That's where you can find the free webinars, also the free classes that are coming up as well. So that's where you can register and sign up for them to attend live. And again, you can always check out our YouTube channel as well to see any of the past BG5 lives. So once again, thank you, each and every one of you for being here. And just real quickly, last words from our panel, and we'll wrap everything up. So Nathalie.
Silence.
Perfect. And Chris.
I just had this funny vision of like a spotlight. I don't know why. I'm not sure why it's happening. A spotlight feeling of just like allow yourself to know your truth. Allow yourself to know the truth. You don't have to take action on the truth right away. Just allow yourself to know it. That's a huge part of the game. And have fun with it. And take a salt bath.
Love it.
I do those almost every day. Those are really, really helpful. Epsom salts, mineral bath salts, whatever salts that you like, Himalayan salt. And I think the only thing I would add, there was something. It's gone. I loved what you shared, Nathalie. Just silence. Enjoy the silence. Yeah, enjoy the silence.
Yeah.
It can't be taken away from you. That was what came to mind, was that process of knowing. Once you actually have it grounded in your being, nobody can take that away from you. So yeah, to be able to touch into that, go within and seek the truth. It is within you. It's not without.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. So be with the process. Again, as everyone mentioned, there's nothing to do. Spend some time in silence and really tune into what is your inner truth. All right, well, that wraps up our BG5 Live for today. And next week, we will start diving into the actual new year. All right, everyone, have a fabulous week. Again, assessing, letting go, finding your inner truth, and we'll meet back again next week. So thanks, everyone, and bye for now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.